I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. Another 1 minute and then.
Yes.
Yeah. Masanda, you'll have to make us you'll have to. We don't want to be on the on video once
So
it
what
goes.
do I do?
So
I make you host.
Now click on hover on my face, and there will be an option there. There are 3 like ellipses. You click on that, and then hide non-video participants.
Oh my God, where do I click? Sorry, on your face?
On my face, there is an option mute, and then there are 3 dots.
I hide 9 participants.
Yes, hide non-video participants. Yes, me and for you and me as well. Otherwise, we'll keep hovering on the page.
I can't see that, sir.
Okay, don't worry. We'll figure it out. I'll do it.
Okay.
And actually. All right. I'm going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for those people who their time zone is different from us. Welcome to our special Mother's Day edition. We have wonderful, phenomenal women here to help us discuss a special topic on how you can raise your young ones as a feminist. So as Girl Up, we thought on this special day we'd be able to have this wonderful discussion and just share with you what it takes to raise a child as a feminist. So Girl Up is an initiative by the United Nations Foundation where we believe in empowering young girls and motivating them to take the lead to be able to advocate for issues and also be able to attain gender equality. So today I'm joined by 5 lovely women from different parts of the world. I will first ask Maria to introduce yourself and be able to tell the people who Maria is.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from Fiji. It is 8 o'clock in Fiji at the moment. And so I want to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone else around the world. So you can call me Maria. Sorry, you can call me Rona instead of Maria. It's a long story. But yes, I am originally from the Philippines, but I've been in Fiji since 2004. And Fiji is now my home, and you know, I have my family here in Fiji as well. I married someone from Fiji, and we have 2 children. I have an 8-year-old son now, and a daughter who is turning 2 next Friday. I also am the founder of the Greenhouse Studio. It's a small business, so I see myself as a mompreneur and a local fempreneur from Fiji. Started as a solopreneur in 2012, and then have now grown to have 7 other people in our small business. We are a multidisciplinary creative and communications agency. I am also the current president of Graduate Women Fiji, of which I've been a member of since 2005. So I've always been passionate about empowering other women and girls. And I'm really, really happy and honored and humbled to have been invited to be part of this panel of amazing women from around the world. Thank you, Yun Mei, for the introduction to Girl Up, who I met through our Obama Foundation leadership convening last year in Malaysia. So I think that's all for me at the moment. Otherwise, I'll keep talking and it'll be too long. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll ask Dr. Dua to also introduce yourself. So Dr. Dua is a radiologist. Yeah. So your mic is on mute.
Hi, everybody. It is 1:30 in the afternoon. So good afternoon from me, good evening and good morning to the others. And I am Chinna Dua. My official name is Padmavati Dua. I'm a medical doctor, a radiologist, And I'm from the south of India, but I grew up in the north, in the capital of India, which is Delhi. And I'm married to somebody who is from the what is called as Northwest Frontier Province, now a part of Pakistan. And we have two girls, and we live in Delhi. I just took a sabbatical from my job last year in August 2019. For 27 years, I looked after mammography, breast imaging. So I dealt with a lot of patients of breast cancer and also bone densitometry. So bone health, these were my main areas of work. And now I'm on a sabbatical, but I'm attending to my eclectic interests. I do awareness programs of breast cancer, osteoporosis, and I also enjoy singing. So I'm learning and I'm singing, and I'm into cooking as well. And I'm a very passionate cook. And I just started my YouTube cookery videos as well. And I have two grown-up daughters. One of them is married. And right now they're all with us because of the lockdown. So just enjoying time with them.
Okay, so we also have Andisiwe Hungwane. Hope I've pronounced it correctly, who's an education specialist and also is part of, is the project lead for a parent initiative in South Africa. Andisiwe, please introduce yourself.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Andisiwe Hungwane. I'm from South Africa, as she mentioned. It's morning here, good afternoon to others, and good evening to others. I am a teacher to begin with. So I started my professional journey as a teacher in the foundation phase. And then I moved out into working in the development space, trying to empower people in different ways, starting off with teachers. And so now I am leading a project. It's in its pilot and design phase around empowering parents, particularly parents from low socioeconomic backgrounds where there's a lot of power dynamics between the school and the parent is often left out of the school. So trying to empower parents to understand that their value comes from them just being a parent to begin with. Not necessarily about subject tutelage, it's about love and supporting your children to enable them to reach their full potential. I am a mother. I have an 18-month-old son, so I'm very new in the mother journey. But yeah, it starts from this point, you know, trying to raise your child in a way that is empowering of women as well. So yeah, that's pretty much all about me.
Thank you so much, Andisiwe. Our next panelist is Meha Malik. She's a famous belly dancer, and she's always trying to advocate and create awareness on the discrimination that exists on belly dancing in India and worldwide. So Meha, hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Absolutely okay. Hello, ladies. Namaste. Salam to everybody. Amongst all of you amazing women doing amazing things, I feel like, am I here? Am I at the right platform? I have been dancing ever since I can remember. I have lived 17 years of my life in the Middle East, in Oman. And I moved to India in 2006. Ever since 2006, I have been spreading the love of belly dancing in this country. Of course, there's a lot that goes in, you know, kind of choosing a career that is against all cultural rules in this country, and it comes with a lot of stigma, a lot of taboos. But I choose not to look at any of that anymore, and the journey has been pretty interesting. Well, I guess we'll get into that a little later with the questions coming in. But I have just become a mother, and my little one is 2 months today. So it's a special day for me. I'm super new to this whole mom game, and I'm just like, oh, they're asking me about how to raise kids feminist, and I have to start with the raising process first. So it's wonderful. It is an expansion of what I have always believed, because belly dance is a dance form that is passed on from mother to daughter to prepare the womb to give birth. It is a birthing dance form. So it already is, you know, it's an extension of that process that I have been involved in all these years as a dancer. And now that this womb has brought life into the world, there's so much more that I'm learning and experiencing through this body. And I think the perspective that I'm going to bring into this conversation is probably going to be on the lines of, emancipating through the art form and how much belly dance has done for women in India. I was part of a project, a documentary project that was called Paunch and Prejudice. This was done by an Islamic university a few years back. And it was about how, there's so much stigma surrounding just this part of a woman's body, especially in a country like India. And how belly dancing has actually helped kind of like lift that veil of, taboo that's associated with it. So I'm super looking forward to discussing and hearing what everybody has to say, and probably adding a few things from my side as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Meha. And our final panelist is Alex Chang. She's the founder of Definitely New Girls in China, and she's definitely advocating for young girls and women also to get into feminism, to also understand feminism in its totality. So Alex, do introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm here in Beijing and now it's in the afternoon, so good afternoon everyone. And to introduce myself, I am a freshly new mother. My baby is 49 days old, so everything is very new and interesting and exciting for me as being a mother. And other than that, my job is to create video content on the internet about advocating for feminism and to introduce feminism to young women and girls over China. I started to make content about sex education at the beginning, about to introduce contraceptive ideas, about consensual sex, about to love our body, our breasts, our vaginas. And right now we are exploring about gender equality in workplace, and also like interesting subjects as to learn about menopause for young girls, and to like also including to persuade my husband to start to pee from sitting down instead of standing up, and that's part of the actions that we take. And so that's pretty much it. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Yume, and thank you, Girl, for inviting me. And looking forward to talk to you guys right later.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your introductions. So to kickstart the discussion, this question goes to everyone, but of course I'll start with you, Dr. Dua. What does it entail to be a feminist, and how did you yourself, what has been your journey through becoming a feminist?
See, to me, being a feminist means acknowledging that all humans, irrespective of their gender or sexual orientation, are equal. Feminism is also about the choices that we make, okay? Having the choice to express your identity as you wish to, when you want to be a mother, you want to be a mother at all or not, or, as a doctor or a housewife, that I should be able to choose what I want to do, okay? Rather than it being imposed on me by my family or by my society. I must say that I was very privileged because of the kind of family that I was born in. I was born in 1960. It was a very different world as compared to what it is today. But I was very, very lucky that in a place like India, where there is so much of division because of caste, class, religion, socioeconomic status, tribe, etc. I was born in the upper caste, and unfortunately there is a lot of casteism here. I was born in a Brahmin family and in the majority religion, which is Hindu. So because of, though, my parents were not very well to do, my mother came from a rich background, but my father was from a much lower socioeconomic status, and they moved from down south to Delhi because my father lost his father at the age of 19. And at that time, he had not even completed his graduation. And so he decided to come to Delhi in search of work. He started as a stenographer and typist, and from there, he gradually worked his way to retire as the Undersecretary in the Ministry of Defense of Government of India. But it was a very, very tough journey for him. And after 4 children, he decided that he must do his BA, and he did his BA in political science after that. And in spite of meager means, I was very fortunate to be raised by parents who looked at things very differently. We are 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and my mother got married at the age of 13. And at that time she wanted to study, but this was I am talking of 1930s, so it was a very different kind of world, 1920s probably. And so she couldn't have her way, and so she was married off, and she came to an alien city where she did not know the language at all, and she had only done her class 8 by that time. Standard 8 is what she had passed. She could not read Hindi, which was important to be staying in Delhi. All she could read was a little bit of English and some Tamil. And after she had the first child at the age of 15, and she had to marry her first daughter off at the age of 16 because of familial pressure. But after that, she put her foot down. She told my father that there is no way any of the rest of my children are going to get married without being first educated. So I remember I was very interested in cooking also. I would tell my mother very often that I want to make this, but she would say, kitchen and cooking will always happen. You have your whole life to do that. But first educate yourself. It was her 1-point program. She would get up with me at 4 a.m. in the morning when I was doing my medical studies. She would get up and she would be there for us. And never in their life did my parents ever discriminate between the girls and the boys. So much so, one of my brothers, who's a nuclear scientist with the aerospace, I remember he's the one who used to sit, and we used to be doing the handwork like cross stitch or embroidery or tailoring on the machine. He would be doing all that. My mother never ever said to him, oh, what are these girly things that you're doing? So our brothers, our parents, they never ever discriminated. And I, being the youngest and having a huge age gap between me and my siblings, I always found them extremely, extremely supportive. So I really didn't have to fight for my rights when I was growing up. And the same thing happened in college or at my place of work, which is a rarity. I never faced any discrimination. At my place of work, my bosses were very, very fond of me. And, it was only, I would say, that in the outside world, when you're traveling by public transport and all that, that is the time that you face, some problems with men around being in eve teasing or whatever. But otherwise, it was a very protected kind of environment that I grew up in. So I won't say that I became a conscious feminist ever. It was as if everything was handed to me, on a platter. I never had to fight for any of these things. Even the family that I got married to, there was absolutely no problem. And there was never any question about what clothes I'm wearing. I grew up in an environment and in a Tamil family where wearing sleeveless garments was also a big thing. But my father, mother never ever told us any of those things, that why are you wearing skirts or why are you wearing this? So it just happened to be like that for me. So I have really not fought for any of these things. And also, I think definitely because of the kind of family that I grew up in, the majority religion and Brahmin. And so access to education was very easy for us. And it was a value for my parents that, we all should be educated. Like I would say, people from other communities, probably they would not have such easy access to education like I had, though my father retired when I was barely 7 years old. But there were privileges that I had in terms of book banks and fee concession and all that. And that helped me through. So that is the kind of privileged environment that I grew up in. And I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dua. So Rona, it's the same question for you. What has been your journey to become a feminist, and what does feminism actually, being a feminist, mean to you?
I think Dr. Dua captured the definition of feminism very clearly, and for me, it's similar. It's not about female superiority; it's about the equality of everyone. I think I grew up with having parents who showed integrity, you know, in everything that they did, which I'm very grateful for, because, you know, it was something that they didn't have to teach me by words, or you have to do this, you have to do that. But I saw, you know, in the way they acted, because that's what integrity is, you know, that you have to stand up for those who feel like they cannot stand up for themselves, or you have to speak up and give a voice for those who, you know, have either lost their voices or were taught that they should not have one. So coming from that environment, I think like I was given that inner strength, you know, even as a young girl. In the Philippines, there is a predefined idea of what a beautiful Filipina is, for example. And I think that's similar in other countries in Asia, and in other parts of the Pacific as well. You know, I was considered dark skinned or morena. And in the Philippines, you know, you're not really considered really beautiful. Well, at that time, I was born in 1980, and even it was worse before then. But you know, you had to have fair skin. I had wavy hair when I was, you know, a teenager, and even as a young kid, you know, like my own cousins teased me because, you know, I was dark skinned, and they called me, you know, like negra is what they call me actually. And as you know, they were just teasing because some of my cousins were really fair. And also I was always just a nerd. Wore glasses since I was 7 years old. I got that from my mom. You know, she, I have it in my genes to have bad eyesight, and I wore glasses in 7. So I think being a bit different. I even remember instances where my mom would tell me off. I'm on the phone talking to a guy friend, and she's like, "Don't laugh so loud. You know, women are supposed to be like soft spoken and dainty, and it's just totally against my personality, you know, like I'm loud, you know, I laugh the house down, and you know, and I'm dark skinned, wavy hair, wear glasses, such a nerd, you know." And so I think being different and constantly being faced with that question, oh, so I'm not considered like that because, you know, this is what can I do, you know? So I think actually for me that's a blessing, because it really built my spirit to question and say, well, I'm that kind of girl. What does that mean? From a young age, well, I didn't know, you know, that's how eventually I realized, oh, that's what feminism is. You know, I became a feminist because of that. And so that's been part of, you know, my journey, because I simply did not fit that mold that everybody prescribed around me, you know? So in a way, I'm really grateful for those experiences, because I found my strength through that. And it's something that I want to show to my own son, who is sensitive, and my girl who's really rough. And I want to keep showing that to them, that it's really important to see things, you know, in that way, and not just to accept whatever is happening around you because it's the status quo, you know, to not be afraid to question things. And for me, that's really important if you're a feminist. Yeah, so that would be my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rona. I'll pass the floor to Andisiwe as well. You can tell us a little bit how has been your journey in being an advocate and also being a feminist.
So I think everyone has definitely captured what being a feminist is in many ways. It definitely is around, you know, the equality across genders. But I think it's also on top of that understanding that the inequality is very structural, that even though we may have opportunities in our personal lives that allow for us to surpass some of the structural things that keep women in places of oppression, that we need to actually always analyze and structurally analyze these structures that are around, sorry, and mobilize for collective action, because I think the only way we can dismantle these structures is to work together. It's not just about me and my experience as a woman, it's the experience of many women, and the fact that, you know, the only way that we'll see full change is if the most marginalized women are able to be freed outside of this, you know what I mean? And in terms of my own journey in feminism, I would say, I also grew up in a home where I was allowed choices, but I think coming into a space like university and being around women who had a much better understanding of what feminism was and had like a wider understanding of language, and getting into a space where I could start reading a little bit more about what feminism is, and engaging with people and in debating with people and learning the language that comes with these structural oppressive systems, is where my journey really became a real journey into feminism, and where I could say that, okay, yes, I actually am a feminist, and I believe in changing and dismantling this whole ecosystem. Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll go to Meha. You can also just tell us how your journey has been.
So when I was invited to this discussion, I actually really questioned that myself. I was like, am I? And then I wanted to kind of understand what the textbook definition of feminism is. And when Google it says is the belief that a woman should have equal rights and opportunities as a man. And for me, the minute I read that definition, I was like, wow, how controlled and how definitive that definition is. It's just that much. It entails a very tiny part of what I believe feminism be. For me, firstly, I definitely think that it is the ability to be able, or to be in a position where you can make the choices that you want for yourself and for your own good. Whether it's what you wear, you want to be married, you don't want to be married. And also to not give the reins of decision-making, give the reins of control into the hands of the patriarchal system. And when I mean the patriarchal system, I don't necessarily mean in the hands of men. I feel like it's often women who also put down women. I see that happen quite often, because I'm coming from a career where I'm dealing with 99% women. And often you will see women tearing down women on the basis of how they choose to dress up, what they wear, and I find that to be extremely sad. But for me, feminism has always been taking women on this journey with me, which automatically brings in other people, so other genders associated with women on the journey with me as well. I was asked once about how I thought dancing was empowering people. And for me, the simplest way that belly dancing has affected women is it gives them the ability to say no. And when I say that, I mean, it simply starts with how people think that they are in control of your body, how people think that they can tell you what you should or should not do with your body. And the people decide that I wish to be a dancer, I wish to be a belly dancer. I am choosing, making a decision for my body. And I'm saying no to everything else that is being said to me. And that's where the journey of empowerment with belly dancing actually begins. And I have seen that idea of no filtering into the lives of women into the other aspects of their life as well. Whereas it just started with saying yes to no to what I want to do with my body. And I think that I have worked with women over the last 15 years, since 2006, and I have seen the lives of women change, because they come from backgrounds of physical abuse, they come from backgrounds of body shaming, they come from various backgrounds, and the body doesn't lie. And it's amazing to see, amazing to see how, women have changed over time, simply by the act of being supported by other women. And I really feel, for me, that is what feminism entails. It is the support that you receive from women. And when we do this for each other, automatically, I think that the world does it for us and with us.
So thank you so much. So thank you so much, Meha, for that. So we'll now go to Alex. Alex, if you can just briefly tell us what your journey has been in becoming a feminist.
Yeah, I would like to say first, and I feel the same as the other panelists has said. Like, I believe feminism is about like believing in full equality between men and women, and I feel really strongly. Sorry, my cat. Like what Andisiwe said, it inspired me a lot. Like the inequality is structural, and I feel quite interesting because my background is kind of similar to like Dr. Dua and also Rona. I came from a more privileged background in China, and I feel like it's the same. It's like if you are a more privileged class or upper middle class women or girls, we are more we get to access the idea of feminism more easily. It just came to us quicker to as to the others. But the women and girls from lower economic background or lower class, they just don't get the idea of feminism, but they are the more in need. They are just suffering more from inequality. And my journey is I didn't face a lot of discriminations when I grew up, but I feel like when I started to study and to learn, as my job is about sex education and providing contents about sex education, I thought I know everything about sex, and I thought I love sex, and I know how menstruation works. I know how vagina works, but I never learned about consensual sex. And I had a lot of relationships and boyfriends, but I also had 2 abortions because of unsafe sex. And it's not only just sex education. It's not enough. It's not hasn't been taught to. Nobody taught me, but also it's like women, also myself, is in a more. It's just like men and my boyfriend. They are more empowered in relationships. I met many boys who refused to use a condom, and I just adapt with that. I thought that's the norm. It's so unequal, and from that moment on, I'm more in believing in feminism and believing in equality, and also it's like as a girl, I've been taught to be nice, and I've been taught to just to adapt to what the others are doing. So everything is connected from that moment on. And then I started to learn more and research more on feminism and to believe in even more. And then here I am. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex. So, Dr. Dua, on the subject, you've spoken greatly about your mother's role in raising her children as an equal, irrespective of their gender. So, despite being married off at an early age and not being able to study, she ensured that all her 5 daughters, received equal opportunity. How has this influenced you as a mother and as a feminist?
See, I didn't have to fight for anything, and I didn't have to consciously become a feminist, okay, because it was all given to me like that. And so that is how I am. And having been married to into a family where also there is no discrimination, and my husband and I, when we got married, this was a marriage which was out of my choice. And after our marriage, we decided that after 2 years of our marriage, we will have children. And irrespective of the sex of the children, whether it be 2 girls, 2 boys, or 1 girl, 1 boy, we will have 2 children. So that's how it was. And we have 2 girls. Okay. Now, I must also add that in my in-laws' place, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, both of them have 2 daughters each. In India, it's a very big thing that, to have a son. Okay. But my mother-in-law or my father-in-law never ever said to any one of us that you must try for a son. And I must tell you this, that having been a doctor and having been involved in doing these tests, which are for which patients used to come to us for infertility, the test called hysterosalpingogram, where we do a tube test. I remember so often I would ask the patients, so how many children do you already have? Is it a primary infertility or secondary infertility? Many of them would already be having 2, 3, 4 daughters. And I would always tell them, you have children, why have you come for this test? They would say, no, but I'm trying for a male, I'm not able to conceive. And so many times I would be very upset by the fact that the first thing I would ask them is, has your husband been tested? They would say no. And I felt that it was so unfair that your husband hasn't been checked. And often it would be, if the semen analysis were to be done, you would find that the sperm count is low. Those kind of cases also I dealt with, and I would say, but your husband has what we call as azoospermia, there is no sperm. So how do you plan to conceive? Oh, I will go in for artificial insemination donor. Okay. I felt it was that kind of desperation, and many of them would cry because they would say that this is familiar pressure from my mother-in-law. And like another participant, Meher, said that women are the ones who are bringing women down, instead of the mother-in-law saying, okay, fine, you have 2 children. First of all, I don't think she should have any say in how many children the other person should have or what sex they should have. So I never faced any of those things. So after the 2 girls were born, my mother-in-law faced a lot of questions from the neighbors. Oh, they also have 2 daughters. Everybody has 2 daughters. People would walk up to me and say, why don't you try for a son? Of course, they would get it back in good measure from me. So these are the things. And I think that we decided between the 2 of us that we are not going to program our children at all. We are going to let them be, because my parents never told us what we should be. I decided on my own to take up science and to become a doctor, and likewise for my other siblings. And my husband is very different from the rest of his family. He took a completely offbeat path those days, decided to be a broadcaster, and his family, his parents stood by him, because initially there was not much money in it. Okay, but they all stood by him. And so same thing we decided. And we decided that we will be there for our children, provide for them, and so much so that anything that they want as far as education is concerned, we'll just bend backwards to give it to them, because education is one thing that we told them, that you must educate yourself as much as you can. And we're very happy both our children are very well educated. And apart from that, just be there for them, but not program them at all, just let them be. I feel the children learn more by seeing, not or observing, not by being taught things. So this is what they have seen, that we do what we want to. We are all in our respective orbits, and we all have total respect for each other. So we never berate each other or anything. So I think that's what they have grown up with. So I didn't consciously raise them to be a feminist. And they have just realized what it is, and how important it is that everybody should have equal rights. They have seen me dealing with everybody like that, irrespective of my domestic staff of any sex they may be. It's not that one is treated better than the other. I'm there for them. So that's how it is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dua. So we move now to Rona. So Rona, you are, the founder and the Creative Innovations Director for Greenhouse Studio, and also you have the role to play as a mother to your son and daughter. So I'll give a quote from Gloria Steinem, which says, "I am glad we've begun to raise our daughters more like our sons, but it will never work until we raise our sons more like our daughters." So what do you think is important? What's the importance of this thought?
First, thank you for that question. Firstly, I love that quote. And I feel that it is so very relevant to myself as well in my own journey as a mom, because I am raising both, a son and a daughter. And when I think about this quote, it makes me think of the different ways that we approach raising, our kids. With my son, especially when I think about it, even from a young age, we knew that he was sensitive. Like he has big, huge feelings. I think that he got that from his mother. And so, you know, like he would feel that, you can see it in him, like it's very hard to contain those feelings, you know. He'd cry, and so even from the beginning, we never discouraged him from expressing his feelings. And it can be such a challenge too. I've had, you know, situations wherein I've had to tell, you know, one of the teachers in his old school that, you know, please don't cry because you're a boy. And I didn't say, oh, this really annoys the hell out of me. I mean, I was, you know, patient. I just, because I understood that, I mean, even if we are conscious and aware of how we're raising our son, it's different for others. You know, they have their own, I mean, the challenges of unconscious gender bias is, you know, vast in the way we're raising our kids and the way we see the roles of men and women and here in our society, I mean, here in Fiji. And so, you know, we're always very conscious about telling Maui that it's okay if you're upset. It's okay if you want to cry. If someone tells you it's not okay to cry, you can say, well, I'm upset right now. You know, I need to do this. And I'll be okay after a while. So that's one thing. Another thing that I feel is that's very, very important for Maui to understand. And we always say it, not just show it. I always say, I'm always looking for teaching moments. You know, when there's a teaching moment, he's watching Star Wars and sees Princess Leia, and because he loves, you know, Star Wars, so he understands it, you know, from his imagination, from his point of view, you know, what was going on here. And I tell him when he's playing a game, and I ask, why are there more male characters in your game? You know, where's the female characters? You know, like I try to look for these teaching moments. Like, for example, when we're at a I remember we were at the grocery shopping, and my son is very expressive. As I said, he's very warm, but my daughter is she's rough, and, you know, and she doesn't like anyone coming to her space, right? And so my son would say, why wouldn't you let me kiss her and hug her? I just want to say, you know, good night. And I have to tell him, well, you know, everyone's different. If she's not comfortable with that, you can't force her, you know, to just say, okay, because you're my brother. Because she, just like you, if you're not feeling at the moment, how would you feel? I'm always saying, how would you feel if? So, you know, these are, another thing I always tell them is that you have to be independent. You have to learn how to do all these things, because mommy and papa's not going to be there all the time. I think all those little bits and pieces contribute for us, like being really aware and intentional in the way, you know, we're raising, you know, the kids and how they see and view the world. I'm really glad that even the new managing director of my company is a woman. So my son would ask me questions like, oh, okay, mommy, so does that mean you're not the boss anymore, but Auntie Karen is the boss now? So he knows that, you know, and Auntie Karen is a single mom. Like, these are, you know, when he asks those questions and we talk about it, we encourage him, you know, to talk about these things. And once in a while I would test him and say, do you think, you know, boys are better or stronger than girls? You know? And he would say, why would I think that, mommy? Like, you know, and he would say, sometimes Azaria is even better than me at maths. Like, he would, you know, say these things. But these are, you know, our experiences in raising our own kids here. And yeah, so just sharing all that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rona. Thank you so much for giving us those details. We'll move to Andisiwe. I know, Andisiwe, in your introduction, you mentioned you have an 18-month-year-old son, which I believe is very exciting. So I'll pull out a quote from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who's a renowned feminist on the African continent. She gives the simple instructions of saying we should raise our daughters as feminists. But for you, Andisiwe, as someone who has a son, why do you think it's important that you should raise your son as a feminist?
Okay, so I love Chimamanda. I love that quote. And I think to explain why I believe I should raise my son as a feminist, I came across a tweet when I was pregnant, where a woman tweeted something along the lines of, every woman knows a woman who's been sexually assaulted or physically assaulted by a man, but no man knows a rapist. So in that tweet, I was just like, oh, wow, you know, it takes more than me having to raise my son to be a good boy, to be a kind person, to be a respectful person, because these very same people who we raise to be good boys, respectful boys, kind boys, are raping our children, are raping our daughters, are raping us, are sexually assaulting us, are treating us really badly, you know? And so in that sense, I realized that I have to make sure that I raise my son to be very aware of the fact that he needs to not only be a good person, but he needs to call out the things that he sees that are oppressive to women. I will have to raise him to understand that the way the world is structured is not structured for the empowerment of women as it currently stands. And he needs to actually play a role and not just be, I'm a good guy and I'm not doing those things, so it's not my problem. He needs to realize that it's everybody's problem, and he needs to actually take a stand. And like Rona said, I think in the beginning, that it is that integrity of being able to actually stand up and say, no, this is not okay. The status quo is not okay. We need to change the status quo. So I think for me, raising boys, particularly in South Africa, where we have a high rate of gender-based violence, where we declared last year that there was femicide, you know, that women are being at a high rate in South Africa by men. It's important for him to realize and take a stand and actually mobilize for action and not just be a good guy. Because being a good guy has shown us that it's not actually enough in terms of bringing about equality between men and women. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Andisiwe. We'll go to Mayhem. I know in your introduction and in your bio, you did mention you are a belly dancer, and you've definitely faced a lot of judgment for being comfortable with your own body and opting for what we would call an unconventional career, especially also that you're a mother. So I just want to find out, has your work influenced the kind of values you wish to give your children, and what, according to you, is the most essential way of raising your child as a feminist?
Before I answer that, I think there was an issue with what I was speaking of. So I just want to know, is you all hear me?
We're still getting a bit of some feedback, but...
Okay, let me try getting rid of this, and then you can give me a thumbs up if you can hear me well.
Okay. No, we can't hear you. Yes, we can hear you now.
If you guys can hear me, you can give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, you're clear.
Okay. So yeah, choosing to be a belly dancer, I think, is something that is something that definitely is not the average decision that a woman makes in a country like India. I lived in the Middle East 17 years and was super impacted by the Middle Eastern culture. But as I progressed into my life as a dancer and a belly dancer per se, I realized that this is something that people really look down on. So there's one thing, which is being an artist or a dancer. Already it comes to questions like, how are you gonna, how are you gonna support yourself? What else do you do with your life? Is this a sensible decision to make? So that already comes with being a dancer. Being a belly dancer is a different ball game altogether. When I started promoting myself as an artist in India in 2006, I remember that some of the questions that came to me from companies or from clients, from event companies that wanted to hire me for performance, for example, would ask me questions like, so what else can we have in the package except the dance performance? And I realized that there was this direct association with belly dancing and having a second possible career. And for me, I couldn't understand that correlation, because I'm like, it's really sad for people to think that I belly dance and I'm okay with wearing a costume that shows in my midriff, or I'm okay with, showing my body in this dance, but that's more so because it's the need of the dance. And I was surprised, just because I'm okay with expressing myself through my body, it automatically means that I would be doing sexual favors for people. And I think that's where I realized that I was not being perceived the way I perceive myself, or the people that love me perceive me. Because like a lot of other women here, I had the privilege of coming from a background where my family never made decisions about what I should do as a career, or do in any other personal aspect of my life, be it sex or having relationships, or having a voice, or expressing myself. Nobody ever told me that this was something I could or could not do. But then when I started my profession as a ballet dancer, I realized that the world was really trying to pull me down. Even when I started teaching my class, I would have parents getting into debates with me, saying things like, I don't think it's very appropriate for a 14, 15-year-old daughter to be studying with you, because we're afraid of how boys might look at her. And my only answer to people used to be, the way people look at your daughter is going to be on the basis of how she chooses to carry herself. And it was difficult. And somewhere I would say I kind of took a rebellious approach, and I made a lot of enemies in the industry because of being, so harsh with the way I said things, or people would say you're very rude. But I realized that honesty does bite, and people don't necessarily have the sensitivity to understand that someone's probably coming from a space of having to deal with that kind of behavior day in and day out, just simply because of the kind of career they have chosen. I would say that now I have chosen to tell the story of what happens in my daily life through my art form. It is in the way I carry myself, it is in the way I speak to others, and it is even in, I would say, none of my classes are complete without, without this aspect of asking women, having women-centered discussions. And like, Andisiwe just said, that I have faced, or rather seen, or been abused as a little girl. I know of every second woman that comes to a belly dance class that has gone through this. And for me, it is super important to kind of create platforms for discussions like these, because I know that even when you go through it, say, for example, when you go through something like this by a member of the family, I know that it is so common for people to say, oh, let's not talk about it. And I think that already through the rebellion attached with belly dancing, I think it has made, or kind of created, like a platform for women to come and actually talk about so many of these other things, which I feel in general is not so accessible for women, around me, even women that have really educated backgrounds, families that have raised their children equal opportunities as the boys, and just like I have. I believe still there's so much that a woman cannot discuss. A woman can't comfortably talk about her sex life. A woman can't comfortably talk about, her period. I'm lucky to be married to a man who shares in everything that I do in terms of mothering. It's not helping me. He's an equal parent. He's co-parenting everything, from diaper changes to dishes to cleaning the toilet to everything. And I feel for me, my daughter is going to see this. Very often, even people that know me personally will make derogatory comments like, oh, we know who wears the pants in this relationship. Why? Is it because I'm a public figure and he's not? Why? Is it because I have a voice that's louder and he tends to be a more subtle, a quieter person? Does it go to show that a man has to be the one who, is on the forefront of always making decisions for the household? Is that necessary always? So for me, I face a lot of slack from society in the terms of being a belly dancer, in terms of having chosen to marry a man who by age is younger than me, who probably is not in the public limelight as much as I am.
But for me, I feel like my daughter is going to see that. She's going to see that Mama has a background of going out into the world and dancing, and she's out there, and Daddy supports her. And we both are bringing the income to the household. We both are running all the possible chores in the house. So for me, I think both of us as parents, and I'm not in this alone, because he's as much of a feminist as I am. Because now with the lockdown, he's a photographer and he's not able to really get out into the world because he can't go to any public functions, he can't get out into the physical world shoot. So it's amazing that as a partner, he tells me that, okay, you're a dancer, the world is following you, you can still teach classes online, I will do whatever I can to support you, take care of the baby, take care of the household, so that you can still go ahead and, you know, bring your art into the world if you want to. And I feel like with raising our daughter, we're probably not going to have to say much. It's going to be less words and more action, because she's really going to see, you know, the cooperation between the parents. And that is in the end what it is about, because children see this, they see more, they listen less, they see more. I think, you know, you can't expect your children to learn something if you can't show it to them in your daily actions. And for me, I think she is going to have the opportunity of seeing that every single day. And whether she's a feminist or not a feminist, she's going to be a woman that makes her own decisions, and nobody is going to tell her otherwise. And above all, I think she's going to be a human. She's going to be somebody who sees people of all kinds as equal, because that's what she sees in a household. And for me, that is really where the whole journey of bringing her up begins.
Thank you so much, Alex, for that answer. No, you were clear enough. Thank you so much. Sorry, Meha. So we'll move to Alex. So Alex, you are a very influential video producer in China. And, you know, since very early, you have been raising awareness on gender equality and reproductive health through your online videos. And so in your recent video, you say that so many people ask during your pregnancy if it's a boy or it's a girl, but you were definitely quick to highlight that you did not want to know, to find out that, and you decided to, you know, raise your child irrespective of the gender. So what drove you to make this decision?
Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, my husband and I, we want to raise our child in a gender neutral way. And you know, as for a fetus in your belly, you know quite nothing about it. If you know the sex of your baby, that's the only thing you know about it, because you would never know whether your baby is like an introvert baby or a like more outcoming, like a personality. You would never know. You only know the sex of it, and then every imagination of your baby, you build that on the sex, and then that's every imagination is built on gender stereotypes. And it's not just only about like to let your baby wear pink or blue or give what kind of name to it. And actually we joked about to name our baby IKEA to one of our friends, because like a gender neutral way of being a parent is quite like North European. That's only a joke. And it kind of scared me, because to myself, I think I'm like quite aware of the gender stereotypes. But still, if I know my baby was a boy, like I would imagine him like playing soccer and very active. If my baby was a girl, I would think about like she has a long eyelashes or something or whatnot. And then I just hate to limit my imagination of it. And also I learned that like people treat babies, like infants, quite differently when they know the sex of it. Like research showed that like people are more active, more physical to boy babies comparing to girls. And people would like praise a girl baby, like, oh, you're so cute, you look so beautiful. And it just started to bury inside a a girl's mind. Like for me, I think maybe when I was small, like when people praise me, like I look cute and beautiful, and I will learn that, oh, just the most important thing for myself is to just being cute, so everybody will love me. And then I think it's a very bad thing. So and just one time, not one time, I used to think about like when my baby come out, I would keep a secret, keep its sex a secret, or just to tell like strangers like randomly if it's a boy or girl if anyone asked. And but then I changed my mind, because I think the sex of it is nothing to hide, and you would just accept it. But the gender, like if he wanted to be a man or woman or something non-binary, it's his decision, and it's a question of lifetime. And then it would change, or it's just still something we don't know. But now we accept that my baby is a boy baby, and then everything, I wanted to go natural and also go gender neutral. So I hope I explained it right.
Thank you so much, Alex. So now our viewers and audience have a few questions for you people. We'll start with Dr. Dua. So we have a question from Peter, which says, Dr. Dua, growing up in Indian environment, we understand what are the real problems can you explain what are the real problems being experienced by women there, especially women from underprivileged backgrounds? How do you think we as a global community can work to improve this situation?
Yeah, Arpita. Okay, what I feel is that across all sections of the society, the problem exists. It's not just in the underprivileged or in the poor socioeconomic status. The problems are different. Say in rural India, we'll have people, a woman even has a problem in if it's a girl child, whether she can keep that girl child or not, and she can't take her own decisions on whether to have the baby or have more babies or not, all those things. Whereas say in the urban, amongst the educated, highly qualified women, the problem is of getting paid as much as the men are getting paid. All these kind of problems are there. But what I feel is that apart from the fact that it has to start not only from our homes, but also as far as the leaders are concerned, I feel that the policy makers, they also should lead by example. Look at our parliament also, look at the way the women are treated there. So if they don't lead by example, it will not percolate down to the society. People who are looking up to them and following them, they are also going to behave like that. And unless we sensitize the men, along with of course women have to be empowered, but the men also have to be sensitized. They have to be told that it's not just telling them. You have to lead by example, that men and women are equal. And this cannot work like that, that that the a woman is not going to be paid as much, or you can treat her badly. So I think it has to be across all sections of the society, that we have to make a policy for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dua. The next question goes to Rona. We have a question from Lizzie. Sorry about that. Just a second. Rona, can you share with us how your husband is supporting or working with you to raise your son and daughter?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Lizzie. So I am very lucky. Well, he was my choice. I chose my husband. So I knew even from when I met him how he acted, that he respects, women, and how he thought, he's very close to his mom and his two very strong personality sisters, two sisters. So even now, as a father to our kids, it's extremely important for him to show our children that we are partners in the house. That just because he is the man of the house, he's supposed to do certain things, or that he's supposed to make certain decisions at home. So we are very particular in the way that, for example, there won't be, and he won't say, or I won't say, why don't you ask your dad, your papa, because he's your papa. Like we want to be very clear to the kids that we are partners at home, and there's no one higher than the other. He doesn't care about who washes the dishes or takes the cats, or he shares the chores at home. I think that's really important, because if we want to teach both our kids to be feminists, and that we're both equal at home. So Maui, and if Maui wants to cook and Maya doesn't like cooking, that's fine. Right? It should be, and that's how he is as well. So that's one of the ways that he helps. And also, my son and my daughter can see how supportive he is of the business, and of the extra hours of me leading a company, and sometimes when I'm not at home and he's going to be there. He is the father of the kids. He's not babysitting. He is the father of the kids. He will take care of the kids when mommy needs to be somewhere else, and there's no issue. There should be no issues with that. So being supportive like that, because my kids can also see what it's like for other families, so they would question, okay, in my house this is how it is with my parents, but in other houses maybe it's not the same. So showing how he is and how he makes decisions with me as partners, how we divide the chores as partners, how we respect each other and talk to each other, shows the support that he has for myself as the mother, his wife, as a woman, as an empowered woman. So I'm really grateful about that. I hope it answers your question, Lizzie.
Thank you so much, Rona. We have a question, and this question goes to Andisiwe. I'll summarize it. So how do you hope as a young parent to raise awareness? Think of yourself being in a situation where you come across mothers who are saying sons don't need to learn to learn feminism, or sons don't need to be feminists. How would you react or raise awareness to that?
I think one of the major things around that is the fact that sometimes we dissociate ourselves from the actual situation. So I think mothers do know that the status quo is not necessarily what is ideal. They have experienced forms of oppression. And so engaging with people, I think engagement is one of the best ways that we can do things. Engaging with people, finding out what the realities finding out what it is that they would want for even their daughter. So maybe you have a son and a daughter, you say your son doesn't need to know feminism, but what does that mean for your daughter's reality in life and the world that she'll be going through? So I think engagement is really, really important, and talking to people and actually breaking things down for them to the bare minimum, to something that is very understandable and reachable for them, making it as sorry, there's a bit of background noise with my son outside. Making sure that something that is so philosophical and making it as real as possible for them. And I think that's the thing. I think when parents understand that this is something that has affected them and their generations, and they don't necessarily want their daughters to go through the same thing, they start to understand that actually feminism is not taking away from men in a way that is, it does take away from them, but it's taking away from the powers of the system, but it's not necessarily taking away from you as a person. And that if we empower everybody wins at the end. I don't know if I actually answered the question. I'm just a bit distracted with what's going on outside. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. You did answer. You did answer. You did answer, and thank you so much for that insight. We'll go to Meha. We have a question from Rose. Actually, Hussein, sorry. It says, as we go through social media and magazines these days, why isn't there any representation of pregnant bodies in the media cover pages? Why is society making discuss over nursing mothers being found in media?
Firstly, I don't think that to be necessarily true. I think that through time, people have kind of been obsessed with the idea of pregnant mothers. To be honest, because I think even the world of like celebrities and people are always talking about who's becoming a mother. You know, how thin she got, how fat she got, how she lost her weight. I think people are kind of obsessed with this idea of pregnancy. In a way, I do kind of think this is true in the social world, but if we're talking about social media and how we access it, I would say probably my world of access to the social media that I am kind of like engaging with is probably super different from the social media that somebody else is engaging with. I think it's super dependent on choice and what we choose to see. I am kind of swarmed every day on my Instagram, for example, with stories of birth, like really raw, amazing stories of birth, super sensitive content that people on a general day might not be able to see. But for me, I'm super, every day there is something to learn on social media about pregnancy, about nursing, about breastfeeding, about children. And I don't also believe that there is disgust associated with nursing. For me personally, I feel like breastfeeding is so much more amazing and beautiful than I ever imagined it to be. And also the world of women that I follow also choose breastfeeding as something, or rather look at breastfeeding as something extremely beautiful between mother and child. So I don't know if I'm necessarily from the same, whether I'm exposed to the same kind of media, because I feel like we all choose what kind of media we want to be exposed to. And then if that is something that the current media that you are exposed to is making you feel, I feel like probably you're not exposed to the things that you want to be exposed to. And I really feel like this is about choice. I truly feel like I'm empowered by women even on my social media platforms on an everyday basis. Of course, there's always going to be people who are going to say certain things, or there's going to be talk about women and their bodies, and that has been happening over time, and it is going to continue to happen. But I choose to be in a circle that empowers women and talks about pregnancy and talks about breastfeeding. And I know for so many women, breastfeeding can be a very difficult task as well. A lot of women I know, for example, have had issues, had to see lactation experts. I myself had, when my baby was born, I know I had an issue of oversupply. So every time I tried to breastfeed her, my milk would be all over her. And it was such a difficult time for me. And it really, really brought me down. But I don't think that I or anybody around me, even in my primary circle, associates disgust with nursing. So it's very hard for me to answer this question in the context that it's been asked, because to be honest, the world that I come from, it is actually encouraged to breastfeed my child. And how beautiful that is actually. So I don't know if we're coming from the same world. We're probably living in parallel universes, and I don't know if I've even answered that question, but it's probably because I don't necessarily come from that background, and rather my primary circle, even my secondary circle of people that I follow and I'm followed by, don't believe in it. So I don't know if
No, you definitely answered the question, Maya. Thank you so much. We have another question which goes to Alex. Have you experienced cyber violence when promoting sex education and self-care? How do you deal with those anti-feminism speeches?
Yes, I did encounter cyber violence, and especially when I made a video about my own story of sexual harassment that I encountered like several years before, and I've received comments like she deserved it, and she asked for it, like everything you've heard of when there's a victim coming out to say her own story. And then the way that I dealt with it, it's just I combined their comments with my narratives. It's just because that's what I've been telling myself, the same thing when I was like trying to process the harassment that I had. I've been asking myself, is it like that I asked for it? Is it my fault? So just I think that's something you cannot erase, and then you just like they wouldn't hurt me, those negative comments, and because I've been telling myself the same thing, and so it's just like how I deal with my own feelings, and then I just try to answer those questions by myself. Yeah, I hope that I answered the question.
Okay, thank you. No, you did. Thank you so much, Alex. I think I would like to hear the challenges you're all facing being a feminist from a cultural perspective. And I'll build up on a question that was asked from one of our viewers, Smangaliso, and I'll start with you, Andisiwe. It's a little bit of a long question, but he cites a book and says, by The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Women's contains that women's liberation movement goals of wanting to be liberated from the man and having the pseudo equality may be goals for the non-Black woman and for her plight with the non-Black man. That is not true for the Black woman, because the Black woman isn't under the control of the Black man since the pre-colonial period over 500 years ago. How do you reconcile this reality with the effort of Black women to be part of the feminist movement despite Black men having no control over their society like non-Black women have over theirs?
So just to answer that question, I do think that there's some validity in the idea that feminism in its mainstream form, how it has been for many years, was very much about white women's struggles, and not just non-Black. It was specifically about white women's struggles. And it left out a lot of other races, and it left out a lot of other things and other parts of our identity. And I think identity is very complex in that sense. And I think for someone to say that feminism is not a fight for Black women is also asking me to leave parts of my identity. You know what I mean? I am a woman, I am Black. Both of these things are here, they operate within me, and I can never separate from either of those things. And I think that's why that's why, you know, Black feminists came out with other terms for themselves, because they didn't identify with feminism in its sense at that time. I mean, Alice Walker spoke about being a womanist instead of being a feminist, because feminism didn't stand for her plight. Kimberly Crenshaw termed the term intersectionality, you know what I mean? That says, actually, there's so many parts of who we are, whether I'm a lesbian, with my sexuality, my gender, my race, all of these things play a role in how I navigate the world and the oppressions that I feel. And I can't leave out any of those oppressions in my fight. You know what I mean? So I think that another thing is that we need to really understand that the way patriarchy works is that it's like a totem pole. And at the end of the day, women of color, Black women, are at the bottom of this totem pole. Black men are above us on this totem pole. You know what I mean? So for you to tell me that I shouldn't be fighting this fight against patriarchy is not, it's not something that resonates very well with me personally, because I do think that there is still You know, you may not be the one right at the top, but you are above me in the ladder. And for us to topple it and for me to be equal means you will be equal, because you'll be moving up as well. The white woman will be moving up, and so everybody. And that's why I keep saying that if we reach the most marginalized women, which are women of color, women who, you know, work in sex work, women who are really marginalized, then everybody wins. And so, yeah, that is my answer around that. And the sorry, I can't say the word right now, but the complexity of identity, and the fact that just because that feminism doesn't encapsulate my whole struggle doesn't mean I can't form a form of feminism that has my struggle in every form.
Thank you so much, Andisiwe, and thank you for bringing up a good concept of patriarchy, which brings us to the next question, which goes to you, Maya. We have a question that says, change starts from home. What can I start making change in my family, which follows patriarchy thinking, but I follow the feminist philosophy?
That question again. Okay. So it says, this is change starts from home. How can I start making a change when I'm a feminist? But family follows a patriarchal way of thinking. Okay. So for me also, I believe, for me, well, we have a household where everybody from my parents to his parents, to my husband, to my brother, to his siblings, all of us, I think, are a pro-feminist home, which in itself just simply entails pro-people home. We are a home where everybody understands we're interdependent. I mean, look at the world today. What has affected people in one country has automatically affected the whole world. So we are interdependent. We are interdependent on each other for pretty much everything. And for me, it is this interdependence that is what I think is mandatory or super, super important to be able to raise a child who grows to be, say, a feminist as well. And I do think that the support of the people at home is very important to be able to aid in this process. But I am also aware of women, or rather a one-woman army, if I have to say so. I am aware of so many households in India where the mother had to make decisions or had to kind of take a stand for her children in raising them up. I know most of us here on this platform probably come from backgrounds where we have had the support of family, parents, and that's why we are who we are. But I'm also aware of women who come from backgrounds of abuse, who come from backgrounds of lesser economic, just lower economic backgrounds. And I know these women to have made decisions for their children, whether they had to, make career choices that were necessary to kind of raise their children, or kind of lay certain rules for the household. So I know that it is difficult being the only person wanting to raise your children in a certain way. I know that it can be difficult, but I also know that this task is not impossible, because at the end of the day, I feel more than all the other, factors, whether it's the, parents first, and then it is the family, moving on into society, friends, and then moving on into, the other, a little more further away aspect of society. I feel like the mother is surely the one who has the most resources, or the most values, or the most in general to be able to pass on to her child. So if she chooses to make a decision for the child, I think she should not allow the factors surrounding her to pull her down in making those decisions. Because at the end of the day, she has, she is the one who knows the pain of keeping that child in her womb for 9 months and then bringing that child into the world. So I think as a mother, it has to be something that we are okay with saying, okay, this is my child, and I appreciate your advice or the decision that you think you should be bringing to the platter, but at the end of the day, this is my decision, and I'm going to do what is necessary for the well-being of my child. And I know that this is difficult, but like I said, it is difficult, but it is not impossible. And that's why I believe a mother who is a feminist might not be in a family that necessarily promotes feminism and is probably trying to bring the mother down. But that's where the woman needs to find that inner strength within herself to decide what is necessary for the well-being of her child. I hope.
Thank you so much, Meha. So I think we have our last question, and this question goes to Dr. Dua and Rona. Briefly, in 1 minute, can you just explain to us if you think feminism varies across class, race, or climate?
I had said earlier also that this definitely exists across all sections of the society. Like in rural India, I said that the basic thing that, a woman is going on bearing children, and whether she decides not to have more children or to, bring that girl child into this world or not, all those questions she cannot even, she has no control over that, and she doesn't have any rights over that. Whereas in the urban population, we find things like getting equal income, or being treated, equal to a man. All those problems are definitely there. So it is definitely there in all, across all races, class. And also I must add one more thing, that I feel literacy is very, very important. But I have definitely seen that literacy is not synonymous with education. My mother was not that literate, but she was very ahead of her times, the kind of feminist that she was. So I felt that she was more educated than many others who were highly qualified in terms of the degrees that they had. So I think it is very important to be educated, more educated than the literate part of it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dua. Rona, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, in my opinion, I think definitely does vary. I mean, think about the wide range of differences in a female lawyer who grew up and live in New York, for example. I remember a few years ago, I attended the Pacific Business Forum in Noumea in New Caledonia. And there was a session there that invited female entrepreneurs, and one or two amazing women from France who had formed like a business council in Noumea questioned why there was a need in Fiji to have a separate women entrepreneurs business council. Because they're thinking, if here in Fiji, many women are uncomfortable in expressing their opinion as a businesswoman when there are a lot of men who powerful involved in the class, empower them. This is what we had to do. So I think the various wide range of experiences really show that there are variances, across countries, class, race. I mean, that is just my general thoughts on the matter.
Okay, so thank you so much. We have come to the end of our webinar. First of all, I'd like to thank the panelists and wish you all a happy Mother's Day. And thank you for creating time to, share your thoughts on feminism to our viewers. The recording will be available on our Girl Up YouTube channel, and it will also have subtitles for those who are not able to follow the discussion in English. If you'd like to know more about Girl Up, please visit www.girlup.org. And not only that, you can follow us on our social media channels at Girl Up Africa on Facebook, at Girl Up India on Instagram as Facebook as well, and also at Girl Up Asia and East Asia on Instagram. So if you honestly want to get involved in activities that have to do with gender equality, feel free to visit our website. It has all the detailed information on how, as a young person, as a young professional, as a mother, and also as an advocate, can get connected globally. So thank you so much once again to our panelists, and happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Peace out, everyone.